feature. It's used to efficiently distribute updates, apps, and other content across devices in a network. It can reduce the amount of internet bandwidth consumed by devices that are managed by Intune. And the peer caching and Microsoft Connected Cache are powered by delivery optimization. So basically, whenever you're using Microsoft Connected Cache servers or even peer caching, we'll be able to optimize the downloads of your content so that you're not really downloading everything from the internet. How does this actually work? Whenever a content is published, we're going to be chunked in hash pieces of this content. And some of the supported content would be Windows updates, including feature quality, Edge browser updates, drivers, Defender definition updates, Microsoft Store apps, more specifically UWP apps, Microsoft 365 apps and updates, and Intune Win32 apps. These are some of the supported content. There are additional contents that are supported by delivery optimization that you can review in our documentation. So how does it work here? First, whenever you're attempting to download content, in this case here, device A is attempting to download content, it will reach out to the delivery optimization services in the cloud to understand what are my peers, where can I actually download this content from. The delivery optimization service will be returning that information. And in this case here, the device will attempt to contact to the three possible sources that it found. So it found that device B has a few pieces of this content available, device C has other pieces available, and finally the content server has everything that it needs available. So the device would then contact all three different sources to ensure that they will download as much as possible from the sources that are available in your internal network. And when the content is not available in your internal network, it will reach out to the content servers. When we're talking about these download options, we will respect several settings on your devices that will define how much internet bandwidth we can consume. So one example here is, for instance, if you're deploying Windows updates using the update ring policies, usually these downloads will start in the background. So for downloads to start in the background, we usually define the maximum bandwidth that the downloads can use is up to 45% of your available bandwidth. This means that we keep measuring the available bandwidth that we have all the way to the CDN, and we ensure that we can only use up to 45% of that bandwidth. If we're communicating with peers that are on the same network as the device A, you would then be able to use up to 100% of your bandwidth to communicate with devices B and C, because these are local to the network. And finally, once device A completes downloading the content, it will start caching the content into the expiration date that is defined. So it communicates with the delivery optimization services to let it know, I have this content and the content is going to be available up to this day. Okay, any questions so far?
No, all good.
Okay, perfect. Now, whenever we are configuring delivery optimization, we basically have to define what setting for download mode would be a good match for your network topology. The default download mode policy is local network, basically using the same net. This means that for any device that shares the same external IP address, they would be part of the same group of devices that would be able to share content. So you can see here, for instance, this group of devices has this external IP address, and this group of devices has this other external IP address. They would be able to share content among themselves, but they would not be able to share content between these two groups. Okay. Intune, this policy is called the DO download mode, and in a GPO, that's called download mode. Now, there's a different setting that we can configure, which allows you as an organization to define groups as your download modes. So when you're defining groups, the public IP address doesn't really matter here because we don't use that to define if your devices are going to be able to communicate with themselves. So you'll be able to create a group, in this case, that involves all of these different devices, and all of these devices would then be able to communicate to themselves as part of this group. This group download mode can be great for a lot of organizations that will be able to define specifically what sites, what locations you have to be able to share content. And there are a few different options on how you can define groups. So basically you can define that your groups will be based on the Active Directory domain services site, or the domain that the device is authenticated to. Other options be the DNS suffix, or even the enter ID domain that you're connected to. You can also create your own custom groups and apply group IDs based on the HTTP or in a specific policy to your devices. So the group ID option can be used independently of any of the default automatic options. So talking more broadly about all of the download mode options available, the first option that we have is HTTP only disable, which basically means that you can only get updates from the internet. You will not get any updates from other peers on your network, so no peer-to-peer uses. LAN number 1, which is a default setting, which would enable peer sharing across the same network, basically defining based on every client that uses the same public IP as a target. Group, which is the recommended option in case number 1 is not suitable, where it allows you to peer across groups that you're going to be defined based on Active Directory sites, same domain group, and a few others. In this case, peering would occur across internal subnets between devices that belong to the same group, including devices in remote offices. We also have the option number 3. This option 3 allows your devices to get updates from the internet and from other computers on your network. This is an option that most organizations do not use and do not allow because they do not really want other devices on the internet to be sharing content with them. Then we also have the simple option, which would disable delivery optimization cloud services entirely. That's the option that delivery optimization switches to when cloud services are unavailable or unreachable. And we have the bypass mode, which is an option that is deprecated, you should not use. Next, we also have additional delivery optimization settings. Here we just talk about a few of the settings, but we do have additional settings available too. So one example here would be the maximum cache age. There's a policy that allows you to define in seconds when will a specific content expire. So this will define the maximum number of seconds will be able to be held in the delivery optimization cache on each one of your devices. By default, this is set to 3 days, but we do recommend that you change this to a value between 7 and maybe 15 days. It will depend on your update rate strategy. What's the main goal here? Update devices that download in the first groups will be retaining this content in the cache for enough time to be able to provide to the next group of devices that might be downloading an update. So that's why the recommended value here would be 7 days, but depending on your strategy and how long do you wait between groups, you might have different values that would make sense for you. Another setting that we usually recommend setting is to allow downloads while the device is on battery, while under a set battery level in percentage. This basically specifies the minimum battery level on which the device will be allowed to upload data. In case they are below that battery level, they wouldn't share data. By default, this is unlimited, meaning the device can be at 10% battery and still be sharing content with delivery optimization, but we recommend that you set this on a value between 40 and 60%. Minimum peer caching content file size in megabytes. This would specify the minimum content size in megabytes to being able to use peer caching to basically be able to store content in the cache of the delivery optimization client. By default, we only store file sizes that are at a minimum of 100 megabytes, but we do recommend that you set this to a value between 1 or 10 megabytes. Why? Because you're going to have more files that will be available locally for your devices to be able to share the content. Then I mentioned that you could define groups as an option to group your devices, and in this case you're able to specify what's the source of those group IDs. The prerequisite is that download mode must be set to true, and when set, the group ID will be assigned automatically from the selected source. So ET site, which is the default option, the authenticated domain SID, the ATP option ID, which is an option that allows your clients to query the ATP option ID 234 and use the QID that your DHCP will be returned as the value for the group ID. Then we have DNS suffix, or the Microsoft Entra Tenant ID has other options that you can configure. Finally, you could also define your own group IDs if you want. Group IDs are basically a UID, so in case you want to create a custom group, you can just run the PowerShell command new UID, and that will create a new UID for you. You'll be able to create a new UID for building or different locations that you might have. And an easier way for you to apply this group IDs instead of depending on an intune policy would either be to use the ATP option 234, or if you still have the SCCM client, you can have the SCCM client applying the settings and creating the group IDs for you based on your boundary groups. Okay, so these are just some of the settings that are available. We do have several other settings that you can configure, including limiting the bandwidth that your devices can use when downloading from the CDN or from a Microsoft Connected Cache server. In Intune, we do have a delivery optimization template that you can create that contains all of the delivery optimization settings in a single place. Or you can also use the settings catalog and select the delivery optimization settings that you want to configure. Then another option that's available for you to configure on your devices would be to use Microsoft Connected Cache Server. Microsoft Connected Cache Server, it's basically a server that you can configure in your environment. It doesn't actually even have to server, but that allows you to have functionality just like what you have in SCCM today of a distribution point. You can configure these quote-unquote distribution points for delivery optimization, where if your devices are requesting any piece of content, they would reach out to the connected cache server. The connected cache server would then download the content and be able to offer within your network so that your devices are not necessarily going to the CDN all the time to download content that they need. There are a few different options for you to configure this. One of them is to use the connected cache server available in SCCM as part of your distribution points. One gotcha that you need to be aware on that is that whenever you're using these connected cache servers in your distribution points, in SCCM, that server must only have the distribution point role. Any other role would not be supported. So for instance, you cannot mix the management point and connected cache server within the distribution point, because only one of them will be able to use ports 80 and 443. So we really only support the use of distribution points. But in this case, actually, what we're showing in the picture is the option for you to use Microsoft Connected Cache Server for enterprises. So in this case, you'll be able to configure in Azure a resource that would contain your Microsoft Connected Cache servers, and you'll be able to distribute those connected cache servers to either Windows 11 or Windows 7 2022 or later, or Ubuntu, or basically using Linux directly. Why? Because connected cache server, in this case, when we're talking about the standalone version, it actually has a Linux container. So even if you install on a Windows 11 or Windows Server 2022 or later, we're basically just going to use Windows Subsystem for Linux to be able to install the container on your devices. Okay. In case you do have several different locations, and the locations have a lot of clients, you might want to take a look at Connected Cache Server if you want to use the amount of bandwidth that your devices are consuming to download our content. So how does the Connected Cache Server work? First, you basically have to go to the Azure Management Portal for Microsoft Connected Cache or CLI to create the cache nodes and configure the deployments that you want to have. Your second piece would be to prepare and deploy the on-premises Windows or Linux device that you want to configure. Then you need to deploy the Microsoft Connected Cache container, and the cache server will begin reporting status and metrics to the delivery optimization service. You would use the DO cache host setting configured using either intune, GPO, or even a custom DHCP options, so that your devices will know what connected cache server to be able to reach out to. Number 5, the devices would then request the content from the cache server. The cache server forwards the request to the CDN and fills the cache on the cache server. It would then deliver the content requested to the devices and use it peer-to-peer for all delivery optimization content. So this device will be able to download from the connected cache server and also from peers in the network. And finally, let's say none of this is available, your devices will be able to fall back to the content delivery network to be able to download the content. Any questions about connected cache servers?
No.
Perfect. Then on your devices, just so that you know, the delivery optimization will store the content in this specific cache folder. When you attempt to open some of these paths here on your device, you will need to provide admin permissions twice to finally be able to get to the cache folder. And finally, on a device, you'll be able to easily take a look at how delivery optimization is used by going to your settings and taking a look at Activity Monitor. So I'll actually open it here on my device to give you an example. So if I go to my Windows Update settings, I select Advanced Options, Delivery Optimization, and then Activity Monitor, I'll be able to see the statistics since the beginning of this month. So in my case here, I downloaded from Microsoft about 43% of the content, from a connected cache server about 38% of the content, and from PCs on my local network, 18% of the content. We also noted here what's the average download speed for user-initiated or for background downloads. These statistics, they reset every month. And you will also be able to see how much did you upload to other PCs on your local network or even PCs on the internet, in case that's enabled. Okay. Any questions so far?
No, all fine, because this thing is not in place in this infrastructure for now.
It is. There's no way that you're not using it when you're using Windows updates in 18. So it is in place and you're using it.
For that, so sorry, for the delivery optimization, you mean? It's should be by default in that case.
Yes, it's the only way for you to download Windows updates on Windows 11.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I have two videos here to show how delivery optimization actually works and how it can be validated on devices. So let me start here with the first one. It's taking a while to load. Okay, there you go. Okay. So this is a video that was recorded a long time ago, but we're starting here by showing you the cache folder that's currently empty. And we're showing that we applied delivery optimization settings using GPO. So in this case, we applied a few settings such as download mode, group ID, maximum cache age, percentage that you're able to have to share content. So you can see here, for instance, is enabled for group. We also configured the minimum RAM allowed to appear to 1 GB and the minimum file size to cache the content to 1 MB. So this means that we're going to have more content available locally to share with other devices based on the policies that we deployed. And now we're going to go to the Microsoft Store and download one of the applications. When we initiate this download, delivery optimization is contacted to actually be able to handle that request and download the application. You see that the cache folder will start having additional files. And you can run this PowerShell command to validate the status of the download. You see that from this command, 2 files are currently downloading and 1 file is already downloaded and it's caching on your devices. We also show how many bytes came from peer caching and from HTTP. So in this case, you can see that all of the content was being downloaded from the internet. Okay. Now all of these are showing that's caching. And the content that is below 1 MB will automatically be deleted from the cache once the installation completes. So I think we're going to run the command one more time. Oh yes, and when you run the full command, you'll be able to see here additional details about what was the source URL for the download, the download modes that was used, how many HTTP connections, download duration time, etc. So basically it provides you with very good statistic. And you can see now that because the installation completed, the content that was below 1 MB was automatically deleted from the cache. If you open the folder, you'll be able to see the file that was downloaded. And there's also this file called pieces hash file that allows you to see validate the hash of the content that you downloaded. So even though we might be using peer-to-peer, we are always validating the content that we download to ensure that it's the correct content that we were expecting. So this was the first video. So this was the first machine. You downloaded the content, you stored it in cache. Now I'm going to play a video from a second machine. In the second machine, we already had peer downloaded the content. You can see that the cache here is empty, so this machine did not download anything. This machine is using the same group ID as the other one, and the same settings as the other one. And when I attempt to run the command to show the status, it basically shows there are no active delivery optimization jobs. Then start the download. you see the file shows up in the cache. And if we run that get delivery optimization status, we see that in this case, there's actually portions of the content that were downloaded from peer caching. It's represented by this 55% over here. We also list how many bytes came from peers and how many bytes came from HTTP. So you're able to see that for this content, we have a 55% bandwidth savings by downloading that from a peer instead of downloading from the CDN. Yeah, this additional details allows you to see how many peers were actually used. So in this case, just one peer, one LAN connection was used. The installation here just completed. And we have additional PowerShell commandlets that allows you to see how many files we downloaded, average upload size, etc. So basically the statistics that we saw by going to the Windows Update settings. Here, we're being a little bit more verbose with additional details. Now we're then going to open the delivery optimization settings to be able to see the statistics. Yeah, then here under Activity Monitor, you can see that since October 1st, 2019, that device downloaded some content from Microsoft and from peers. Now, we do have some useful PowerShell commandlets. For instance, if you want to validate what settings do you have configured for delivery optimization on your devices today, you can run this get-do config space-verbose, and this allows you to see some of the delivery optimization settings that are applied to your device. I'll copy this in the chat for you, which might be helpful. Let me add here code block, PowerShell, this. So in this case here, you can see, for instance, that I have a few settings that are defined as default provider and a few others that are defined as MDM provider. Whatever says default provider just means that these are the default settings for delivery optimization. And the MDM provider settings are the settings that I'm customizing either via Intune or via GPO. So you can see in this case that Microsoft customized the battery percentage allowed to seat my device. They also customized the download mode to be number 2 LAN. And basically everything else they left as default for my device. This is what's going to define how delivery optimization gets used. Although the slide didn't really get much information about all of the supported content, I will bring here the documentation, talks about that, and I'll share a link in the chat. In this documentation, you'll be able to see all of the content that's actually supported, and we list if that content supports HTTP downloader, like from the CDN, peer-to-peer, or Microsoft Connected Cache server downloads. You see, for instance, that if we're talking about Intune store apps, those only support the HTTP downloader. Why? Because those downloads can be coming from the original vendor of the application and not necessarily from Microsoft. We do have a few channels here that use peer-to-peer. Some cases where, for instance, in Microsoft 365 apps, the extended channel for SAT does not support the Microsoft 365. Does not support peer-to-peer. We also have the MDM agent in Intune, which only supports CDN downloads. Windows Package Manager, MSIX installer, they also only support CDN downloads. Teams updates require minimum version to start using peering. And for Connected Cache Server, it only supports when using HTTPS. Soon, even Intune will only support Connected Cache Server with using HTTPS. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Perfect. I think this might be a good point for us to go on a short break. We have been going for more than an hour now. So let's take a 10 minutes break, and when we come back, we can continue with the topics.
Yeah, sure.